to another episode of Lucas Live. Excited to be here with you guys today. We have great guests today. We have a great guest who has brought a great guest today. And we're going to have a discussion today about how women can heal from their sexual past. How can you heal from your sexual past? Be it that there was some sexual abuse or sexual assault in your past, or be it just the journey that you've taken as a woman through your sexual journey and what you've gone through. Men, women, stay tuned. Young, old, stay tuned. It's important. This is such an important discussion, such an important topic. We've talked about things like this. We've had guests on who have shared their background and insight about this, but there's just not enough help. There's just not enough hope. There's just not enough healing out there. So many women right now are struggling in their marriages even because of their sexual past. So many women are struggling in their singleness to be whole and find the right guy because of their sexual past. And too often it is not talked about, it is not dealt with, and or women don't know where to turn or where to go. We are advocates here on Lucas Live for those that are hurting. And you see my heart has been to advocate for women. Shout out to Andromeda Rahim and the She Wins Society and those sisters who we had on a few months ago. If you guys missed that week, check that week out. Santoria, Sana, all the wonderful women we've had on who have shared their stories of overcoming and the things that they've gone through. This is so important. As a husband and a father, I have 3 daughters. I got 3 daughters and a granddaughter now. Okay, so I'm not playing about these women's issues, and a wonderful wife. And you know this show is dedicated to my wonderful mom, who I lost a few months ago, Miss Vivian Tyndale. So I would be remiss not to be advocating and pushing for women's issues. I believe that as a man, I have to use my platform to do this. I believe that when it comes to issues of race, we often look at people of other races. As a black man, we look for white people and say, hey, we need your help. You need to say something. You know, your silence is speaking volumes. It's stopping the movement. We need your help, right? Well, I feel the same way about being a man when it comes to women's issues. If I, as a man, don't advocate for women, then I'm failing to make a better place for my daughters. I'm failing to make a better place for Grayson, my beautiful granddaughter. I'm failing to do what God has called me to do. For all my friends, for all my sisters, for my sisters, my real sisters and family, and then all my sisters and family out there. I have so many sisters that I've just taken on as sisters over the years who I love dearly. And I want the world to be a better place for them. I want them to get the healing they need. All my single sisters out there who I'm working with, I'm coaching several, and I did my magnetic social media for singles training, which is still available if you want to purchase the recording. And I'm going to be doing some social media reviews today for some of those that came to that. And going through their social media and talking about marketing and how they can position themselves for their future husband to attract the kind of man that they want. Well, all of that is all good. But if they have healing that needs to take place because of their past, if they have healing that needs to take place because of poor decisions they've made and or things that have happened to them that are not their fault at all, then all that I'll be telling them to do about positioning themselves will all be for nothing, because they'll get into a relationship and they say hurt people. So out of that hurt, they'll be hurting the one they love. And strangely and sadly, so often when we've been hurt, we end up hurting the people closest to us. So they finally meet a wonderful man and they end up hurting him. And he's thinking, what did I do? How could you possibly be that mad about that one thing that I did? And really, it's because she hasn't dealt with the pain of her past. I want to thank you guys who have popped in. I know there's more here, but thank you guys who have commented. Tyler Thatcher, my good friend, thank you so much for being here. Tyler and Charles Boone were on an episode about do boys need fathers and men and the role they play in their life. Check that out on YouTube or Lucas Live Media, that episode. It is one of the most watched episodes we've had on YouTube. So shout out to Tyler Thatcher. Thank you so much, my friend. Amanda Jean Dukes, my wonderful producer. Thank you, as always, for helping put this thing together, coordinating our guests, all the things you do. Shout out to Dukes Multimedia. If you're out there and you're considering doing a show and or a podcast and or some other media, and you need a professional who has the skill, who went to school, and you don't want to go to school to learn how to do media, but you want somebody who knows what they're doing, Amanda Jean Dukes here in the comments is the person to go to. Dukes Multimedia. She doesn't just help me, she is helping others and wants to help more. So please reach out to her, get pricing, and find out how she can work with you. Sharice Grantham, thank you so much for always being here. We appreciate the love and support and the face wash. I always have to thank you. My Mary Kay, she's my Mary Kay consultant. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I didn't know I needed one till I got one, till she sent me some stuff. But now that's my Mary Kay consultant. If you need something, you can reach out to Sharice Grantham and she can take care of you. Angie Wright, thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Glad she said she can't wait to hear from Renee and Stephanie. Those are our guests today. They're going to be sharing openly and honestly, and we're excited today to hear their stories and to hear how they can help. You may need the help that they're talking about today, or you may know someone, or you may know several someones who need the help that they're talking about today. So please, please, please stay tuned. Thank you, Miss Christina Sanders, my wonderful cousin. Thank you for sharing this broadcast. My sister cousin. She's my cousin and my sister. Thank you for sharing the broadcast, everybody who has shared. Thank you, Sharice, for that as well. Jaisha, thank you so much. Good morning. Glad to have you here today. As always, all of your love and support. Thank you all. We really appreciate it. And I know there's more out there. You're over there brushing your teeth or something. You're getting ready to get ready and you're busy and so you can't type in the comments right now. I understand. Hugh, thank you so much for being here. Shamar, Miss Shamar Logan, thank you so much for being here. Deborah Martin, it was such a pleasure having you on the show just a week or two ago. So glad you're here. You guys, Miss Lynette Beatty, thank you so much. Our wonderful manager of Lucas Live Media, me, her, and Amanda make this thing happen. And you guys don't know what goes on behind the scenes for us to bring this to you guys, but I wouldn't be able to do it without them. They've added so much to the show and made things so much easier for me to be able to bring you guys education, motivation, and liberation. So I'm so grateful to them today. Getting ready for a run. Let's say, all right, Shamar's getting ready to do her run. And she's going to be listening. That's awesome. We're also going to be putting Lucas Live. We're going to be putting Lucas Live on a podcast platform. It won't be streaming live to a podcast unless we can do that with Spotify. Somebody let me know. We'll see. But we'll be on the podcast platform soon. All the episodes, we're going to drop them as seasons. We'll be letting you guys know that's going to happen real soon. And you guys will be able to go back and listen to old episodes and then listen to new episodes. And it'll make it easier while you're on your run. Because sometimes when you're on your run and the phone cuts off or something, it may cut off the broadcast. So thank you, Shamar. And thank you, everybody, for your love and support. Again, if you haven't shared this broadcast, please hit the share button. If you're on Facebook, don't share it to a watch party. Just share it to a post so that it goes live. And when people come in and they see it and they click on it on your page and they're like, what is this that so-and-so is sharing? And they see it. If they comment, their comments will come into my platform and I can, pull some of the comments on the screen and they'll be able to join the conversation. And that's really, really what we want today. So I'm so excited. I have the directory. I have the director of recovery services. Thank you. I see you, Tyler. The director of recovery services today here from the House of Hope. And she's going to share her story with us. She's going to share her testimony, and she's going to share how she can help you and others heal from your sexual past. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Miss Stephanie Libator. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here today, Lucas. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our Lucas Live Media Manager, Lynette Beatty, mentioned you and Deborah and the work that you guys are doing to help women. And with me and Amanda, we had no doubt that we had to have you on. We had to talk about this because, again, like I said earlier, my platform, I feel like as a man, I have a responsibility to, as a husband and a father and a grandfather, I have an obligation to advocate for women. And I believe that using my voice and my platform will bring attention to men and women. And I hope men and women are watching and open to this conversation. I'm excited to see the people who are jumping into the room. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, Stephanie, let's just start by you telling us your story. Let's start. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? And then let's kind of shift into a little bit of how did you get into this work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm from Canton, so I'm a home
Me
girl
too.
here.
All right.
I'm born and raised
Love
in
it.
Canton. Went to Glen Oak High School. I have two fabulous teenagers, so y'all got to pray for me. I've got a rescued mutt named Buddy, so I got a full plate.
Yes.
Raising some kids and just loving life and loving the work that I do. I feel called to this work at the House of Hope.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So the House of Hope, tell us a little bit. What is the House of Hope? People know like Halloween comes around, they're going to the House of Horrors and they're going to run through haunted houses. The House of Hope sounds like the opposite of that. Help us understand, for somebody who's never heard of it, what is the House of Hope?
The House of Hope is part of Pregnancy Choices, and it is the restorative part of the ministry, restorative or the reconciliation part of the ministry. And what we do at the House of Hope is we give hope to women. We do retreats in small groups, and we really focus on grief issues that include a variety of things like abortion regret, sexual past, childhood sexual abuse. It could be death of a loved one, divorce, any kind of life change, miscarriage, pregnancy loss. So grief is a universal language that we all speak, and we address those grief issues at the House of Hope.
Absolutely. And I want us to make sure we definitely go back and touch on those specific topics like abortion regret. I mean, I'm not even sure, other than, talking to Deborah, that was a term that I had heard. I mean, I suppose it's something we could assume might happen, but I think a lot of times people are walking around with this as something that they either don't tell anybody about, or they've told a few people about, or they're trying to get past, or whatever it may be, or they were young. There's so much there. I definitely want to talk about that. And then the childhood sexual assault and some of the other things, and the divorce that people are trying to get through. But let's talk a little bit. You're also an author. I want to make sure we highlight those things early, and then we'll work through these pieces throughout the show. Tell us about your book.
Well, Unbound, it's called Unbound. Heal from your past, reclaim your identity, and unleash your potential. And Unbound is a study for women that helps them become free. So we're bound by our past, and Unbound is, a book about freedom, ultimately. It's a journey. It's a 12-week journey that it's topical, and that every week we're addressing different topics and working through the issues of grief and loss of, whether it's choices that we made on our own or things done to us. We really can be free from the ghosts of the past and be at peace with our past. So it is a step-by-step process of helping women let go, grieve their losses, name those losses, work through anger, work through shame, embrace forgiveness and extend it to others, and break soul ties. So it's a journey.
That's powerful. Elaine Marie is here with us today. She said Unbound is a life changer. Someone else said that to me. Again, I didn't realize that it wasn't just a book, but it was a program. And someone else said that. So who are the people that come through this program? And why did you take your book and not just have it as a book? Because I got a book too. I got a couple books too. But to take your book and make it a program, why was that always the vision? And
Yes.
Why is that something that you thought was important?
Yes. I know that I read a lot of books, and I mark my books, I highlight, I underline, and I keep them on my shelf for a long time. But it's the books, the things that I work through, and it kind of acts like a journal in a way. And I encourage women to journal through the process, because a book I might read, I could gobble up in a weekend. But something like this, we didn't become broken in a weekend. It's a lifetime, where we're at. And so it takes time to work through, and it's like a cow that chews the cud, chew it and chew it. And that's what this does.
I love that. What a statement. We didn't get broken in a weekend, right? And while there may be lines of demarcation, there may be moments in time where someone can say, this was the day where I was sexually assaulted, or this was the day when I, went through my divorce was final, or this was the day that something happened. A lot of times, this is a lifelong journey of things that happen. Right? There's a childhood sexual assault that leads to later decisions that are not great, that leads to an abortion, that later during the marriage, they're still dealing with the grief, but not dealing with the grief. And then they get a divorce. And there's so many people who are just in this trap of trauma. And I see so many women, and I have the opportunity because I do coaching, and so I get to talk to them about the deep stuff and what's going on and what happened and what's happening. And it's like so many women I talk to, I'm just blown away and saddened by the number of women, and even growing up, knowing women who are going through things. It's just so sad. And I just think, and to all the men out there, I don't think we often know how much women have gone through. And I made a post the other day, and I said men will brag about what they can do to a woman sexually, but never consider what they need mentally and emotionally. And I think that's just a missing piece. Men are still thinking, single men going for a single woman are still thinking, I want to satisfy her sexually, not realizing that sex may be she may still be willing to have sex, and that still may be something that she's talking about, and you're both coming toward each other with the physical attraction, but deep down she may have so much pain underneath the concept of sex. The bed may be a place of pain for her, and she's trying to go there because she knows it's important to the man and the relationship and whatever, but he's not realizing that mentally and emotionally and spiritually she needs some help and healing. Can you speak to that? When you hear that thought, what does that bring to mind for you?
Oh my gosh, everything. You're so right. I mean, all of our the things that happen to us, it builds upon one thing. It's one thing after another. When traumatic things happen, that is an entrance for a wound.
Yeah.
And when we're wounded, lies come. Wounds come because of things that were withheld from us, or done to us, and the lies that come as a result. Lies that we believe about ourselves, about God, about sex, about other people, and we're complex creatures that really need healing.
I 100% agree, and I hope that we work toward the healing that we need and take on these moments. Tell me, there's people who join you on this journey, I'm guessing, who are reluctant, right? Who they're like, yeah, but it's a lot, right? Like to dig into the pain, to reopen the wound can be hard, and it can be traumatic in and of itself. I'm sure there's people who are like, I try to forget that stuff. I'm just moving along. I got to raise my kids. I got stuff to do. I'm trying to help them heal their wounds and their problems. I don't really have time to focus on this. How do you help women face it, to even focus on it? How do you help them make that shift to realize they need to focus on it now?
I feel like when women come to us, they have come to the place where they know that they have to make a decision. They have to either move on and work through this, or continue to struggle as they have. And I found that when we share our stories with one another, that's what helps somebody else become brave. And when we're vulnerable to share our own wounds, and we can share our brokenness all day long, but we need to hear a message of hope. And when we hear a message of hope, I've been so inspired by other women. You're inspiring to me, Lucas. It's just like, that, like, wow, if they have gone through that and come through, then I can do that too. And so that's what our stories do. We're all the same. We're different, but when we begin to hear one another's stories, we're like, wow, we're not so different after all.
I 100% agree. And I think sometimes people think they are alone, right? They think, I'm the only one who's gone through this, or I'm the only one who made that stupid choice, or I made that stupid choice twice, or I had 3 abortions, or I had, it's one thing to admit that I had 1, but I had 4. I can't suggest that I was some victim. Apparently that was just how I was living my life, and who am I to tell anybody? And people will judge me. So I want us to continue this conversation, but you also brought a guest today as well. To add to the conversation, can you introduce our guest today?
I would love to introduce her. She is a friend of mine, a sister in Christ, a ministry partner at the House of Hope. She is originally from New York.
All right.
And she is the wife of Pastor Reginald High, who's a pastor at Friendship Baptist Church in Massillon, Ohio. She's a mother of 4, a grandmother of 8, and 1 on the way.
Okay.
And she is an amazing woman with her own amazing story, Renee High.
Renee High. Now, as soon as we said that, her screen seemed to have gone away. I don't know where she disappeared on us. As soon as we said it, we got her all queued up. She just ran away. I mean, I know. Oh,
Okay.
well, okay. Hey, she decided to come back. Miss Renee, hi, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning to you, Brother Lucas and Stephanie, my friend. Thank you for inviting me, Stephanie. This is an awesome setup for God.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And Renee, you and I know each other. I've
Yep.
known you and your husband since probably you guys came back to Maslin and friendship. And I grew up in friendship during my teen years. So I was able to come back and fellowship with you guys many times, many times. So it's a
Yep.
blessing to know when I was told, well, Renee High would also be someone who could help share this story. I said, well, I know her. That's easy. Let's bring her on. So how do you know Stephanie, and what are your ties to the House of Hope?
Well, I met Stephanie some time ago. I was going to Malone College, and I get lost in time, but it was some while ago. I was going to Malone College, and I needed a report or something, and I chose. It was called Pregnancy um,
Support Center.
Support Center at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I finished the report, and I wanted to be involved with this ministry. So I signed up for the class that taught women who wanted to be advocates for women coming in to pregnancy choices.
Mm-hmm.
I sat through the class, and by the end of the class, we were getting ready to go, and I think it was the last Saturday. I was told that if anyone who has had an abortion wants to pursue this, then they really need to take portraits.
Mm.
And I'm looking around, and I'm like, oh Lord. So I signed up for the class.
Mm.
I signed up for the class, and it was an 8-week class, but I took it over a weekend. It was a crash course,
Mm-hmm.
and that class changed my life. It redeemed me. The class, the study, the healing that took place because I had had an abortion, because I am a first lady.
Yeah.
All the time I was like, I had dug this hole, I had buried that information, and I didn't realize that the symptoms of abortion were relevant to
Mm.
women. Um, so I took the class, and when I came out of the class, it was on a Sunday morning. And when I thought about how every 4 women in church have an
Are you
abortion,
serious?
am I right, Stephanie? About every 4
One in
women in
every
church,
4.
one in every 4
Wow.
women have an abortion. And then I'm thinking of the symptoms of abortion, and I'm looking at some characteristics,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I want to take this. I want to take this to our community, and the Black community. Black women don't share stuff.
Right.
Our Black community doesn't share stuff
Right.
as readily as other cultures. So I was excited about sharing this information. So
Mm.
I came to know pregnancy support. I came to know Stephanie. She was in another position,
Uh-huh.
but um, but now House of Hope. She's a director of House of Hope, and I love and adore working with her because
Wow.
she has a heart to heal. She has a heart to heal the women.
That's
So
amazing, and amazing insight. I think you opened some eyes even with that statistic. 1 in every 4 women in church have had an abortion, which I mean, wow. I cannot think of one time I was in church and it was even discussed. I'm not even sure if I heard the word abortion in church, and I've been in church most of my life. And that many people are hurting, and we're saying, come to Jesus, come to Jesus, come to Jesus.
mm,
He can heal you. And he can. And we're going to talk about that, right? But if we don't talk about what he's healing you from, Right? The woman with the issue of blood, he knew she had an issue of blood. I mean, we talk about what these people in the Bible, at least we read these stories and we understand what Jesus was healing them from. If I never see anybody go up and say, I was healed from the pain of my abortion regret, I was healed from the pain of my past in that way, or my sexual assault, how can we go to church and really feel like we're all just getting this generic healing of like nobody knows what I'm really going through because we're all sitting in here trying to smile and look nice and be buttoned up and look clean and cute, and that person who just came in off the street, yeah, they might have some issues, they look like what they've been through, but I can't look like what I've been through, so I'm going to sit in here and smile and look buttoned up. You are a first lady of a church and you're here openly saying that you had an abortion in your past. How does it feel to say that? Is that liberating? Was that something you were always able to say? How did you get to a point where you can share this story?
Well, I'm glad you opened that. I had buried it so deep inside that portraits, when I went through portraits, it liberated me. It liberated me to the point where I received healing. I received healing that, in other words, I would not have received going through this study. It's a Bible study. You know, they're Bible related.
Right.
So because of that, I realized how I had stuck it deep down inside.
Yeah.
But now, because of the healing process, I'm liberated enough to say, you know what, that's of my past. I've been healed from it. The Most High has delivered me from it. He has forgiven me,
yes,
for it. And I would like to share it with other women who feel like there's something that, they're suffering from that nobody else has suffered from.
Yeah.
They don't want to, they don't want to share what they have because they feel so bad, And that's part of the healing. When you are healed from something, you want to share it with someone. You want to share it, and you want someone else to be healed from it.
Yes.
Because
I love it.
Life is good after you become liberated.
I can't tell you, the people in the comments are saying amen and wow, and they're moved by this. I mean, I think it's just mind blowing. First lady of a church opening up, sharing these things, and there's so many people who feel like they're not good enough as a regular person walking in the door of a church to open up about their stuff because they may fear, well, if my church people knew about this, and for you to be the first lady of a church, I guarantee you are liberating people. This show is about education, motivation, liberation. I see some people, the chains breaking and people being set free today because of what you're sharing here today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want more information, you guys see the information here at the bottom of the screen. Make sure you write that down, take a screenshot. hope@pregnancychoicesforme.com is how you can get a hold of them. You can go at Made to Brave or at House of Hope here, and you see that information there at the bottom of the screen for how you can follow them on social media. Please make sure you note that. Please don't leave this show. The reason we say education, motivation is because if all you do today is learn something, but you're not motivated to do something, we are wasting time. This is not Jeopardy prep. Okay, I'm not here so that you guys can now go on Jeopardy and they say, well, how many women in church have had abortions? And you can say, what is 1 in every 4? That is not what we're here for. We're here so that now you can be educated, motivated to open up and get the healing you need, or share this information with someone who needs it, and liberated to be free to share your story. Some women aren't even free enough to tell their own children what they've gone through so that their own teens and daughters and adult children can get the healing they need. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate all of your comments and everybody. And I see you guys. Thank you guys so much. Renee, Stephanie, you guys, this is important information. Stephanie, you talked about abortion regret. Why is abortion even something? Why is it a part of? Why is it something that you're involved in?
Right. Well, I feel like abortion regret is that, I don't feel like anybody volunteers to have an abortion. I feel like, women feel like they're backed against a corner. And so that's why she chooses for various reasons. Okay. So she feels like there's no way out.
Yeah.
And then some think like, okay, that this was the choice. This was the best thing to do, or I wanted to do it, or didn't think twice about it, whatever the reason.
Yeah.
But most of the time, women come to a place where I regret that decision. And the hard thing about it is that once that is done, you can't go back.
Mm.
It's a choice that you cannot undo.
Yeah.
And so we carry this regret that I have this regret from years past that I can't undo. That's part of my own story as well.
Interesting.
We've heard the whole cliche about, looking for love in all the wrong places. It is more than a cliche.
Mm.
It is the story of probably everybody's life, because we have legitimate needs and we will pursue them and find them in illegitimate ways if we have
Wow.
to. So I was looking for love, looking for these things that, I'm made to be accepted and to belong and to have love and
Yeah.
significance and purpose and all these things. And so looking for that in other people, namely men. And my story is that I was a senior in high school, pregnant, and chose to have abortion. Went on to college, just going through the motions of things that were supposed to happen. Every life moves on, move on to college, but I couldn't move past the grief and the shame and the guilt. Not even I did have grief at that time, but I couldn't move past the guilt and the shame. And
Wow.
it wasn't until 17 years later
Wow.
that I came to a place where God had totally set me up to find healing and forgiveness, because forgiveness and healing are two very different things.
Talk about that. Forgiveness
Yeah.
and healing are two very different things. Ladies and gentlemen, listen closely as Stephanie shares this. Lean in a little bit. Turn the volume back up. So help us understand what you mean by that.
Sure. I was raised in the church. I was raised in a traditional church. I come from a Greek family, Greek mother, and my grandmother spoke Greek. My mother spoke it and understood it. But the three girls that were in that house, we didn't know Greek. But I went to an Orthodox church, a Greek Orthodox church, and I could sing the songs. I could say the prayers, but I didn't know what I was saying.
Wow.
And so I consider myself a church girl. I had a belief in God. I sensed his presence. I didn't understand the role of Jesus or the role of the Holy Spirit. So, when I had that abortion at age 18, oh man, life filled with shame. Shame makes us hide from those around us.
Wow.
Hide from God. But 7 years down the road, so I was now, 25, almost 26 years old, came to a real place, a real relationship with Christ. And so at that point, I totally felt clean and forgiven.
Wow.
I knew that there was nothing between us.
Wow.
Like we were good. We were
Yes.
so good here. And I felt deep in love with him. I felt deep in love with Jesus. I dove into his word, got into Bible studies, found a church that was, preaching the gospel message. I just fell hard.
Yeah, I love it.
And
Falling hard in love with Jesus is a good thing to do.
Yes. I fell hard for the right man.
Right, yes.
And I told the Lord that I would go anywhere, do anything. I love you, Lord. I'll do anything.
Wow.
And at the time, years down the road, I was then working for I was a marketing director at a corporate photo lab, and I quit that job to do missions. Long story. There's a lot inside there. And quit that job and got connected with a ministry called Youth with a Mission, or YWAM. It's a global outreach, youth outreach, and so I quit that, and I'm on a flight to Russia. And I remember I told God I'd go anywhere. And as I was praying about where to go, he said Petersburg, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to Florida, baby.
Sounds good, Lord.
sunscreen and everything. And then
Right.
when I checked to see where the base was, they did not have a base. And I thought the only other place I know is Russia, but that is communist. How could it possibly be?
Wow.
Is that, did I hear you right? Well,
Lord.
he was right. And there's so much to that story.
Wow.
But to answer that question about the difference between forgiveness and healing,
Yeah.
it was at that pivotal moment, forgiveness I had all along and healing I had all along. But healing happens when we unpack the wounds. I feel like, God has the power. He could zap us but it takes, like I said, we didn't become wounded in a weekend or in a moment. It happens over the course of time. And so healing happens because it involves our will and our
Yes.
emotions
Yes.
and recognizing the lies and then finding the truth that counters the lies so that we can
Wow.
really live free. And that's when healing happens.
Whew. Wow. I think so many of us are struggling. I think somewhere in the middle of that, one, I think we struggle to forgive ourselves. We struggle to believe that God is forgiving enough to forgive us. He's forgiving, but I don't know about all this, all my stuff. I don't know. And then
Yeah.
to heal, to truly heal, I think a lot of times we don't know. It's like if I, when I was a child, if I fell and scraped my knee, I could literally see it heal day after day. And I could take that Band-Aid off and see it healing and see the scab and maybe still see the scar, but I knew it was healed. I knew I was whole. I knew I could run again. I could ride my bike again. I could skate again. I could play again. But when we have deep emotional wounds, and they come up, and sometimes I think one of the hardest things, and I'd love to hear Renee share this as well. What do you do when you think you're healed but you're not? Right? Like you're. And I hear people say this, but especially women. They're like, "I'm good. I'm over it." They're like, I'm over it. No, that guy, I'm over it. That whatever he did to me, that abuse, I'm over it. That, I know when I was younger I had abortion, but I'm over it. I'm done. But there's still like this anger. There's still like, you can tell they're hurting. Yeah. You're looking at them like you're hurting clearly, and you're hurting other people around you. Renee, what are your thoughts about that when it comes to people actually facing it and getting the healing and digging into those problems that they've been trying to stuff? Because you said you did that for a while.
Well, I actually didn't realize that I had stuffed some of these emotions and feelings.
Yeah.
But with the class, okay, the Most High set me up for a time such as this because he knew I needed that healing.
Yeah.
He knew I was taking that class. He knew the class was going to be offered to me. So with that, it came the process of healing, and healing doesn't come overnight. Sometimes these ladies have to take some of these classes over and over and over, not over and over and over
sure.
again, but they have to take
go through
it
the process again. Yeah.
Because that process is there. But when you learn about healing, when you discover the symptoms for the healing process, like with the hurt, the pain, the hurt, what you have compounded and you just overlook. When you discover the symptoms, and maybe Stephanie will talk about some of these symptoms that ladies don't actually often know. They don't know why they do some of the things.
Yeah.
But the healing process is ongoing.
Yes.
It's ongoing.
Thank you for saying that. I believe that it is an ongoing thing, and there's a danger when we think I'm over it, right? Like I'm healed. Yes, you're healed and whole enough to move forward, but don't be afraid or ashamed if the ghosts of your past, I believe Stephanie said earlier, come back to try to haunt you, and you can not accept them into your life and not allow them to control your thinking or your feelings. But you shouldn't be surprised. I think a lot of times when we're healed, we're shocked when it comes back, right? We're shocked when the cancer, the illness comes back in any form, in any part of our life. And sometimes I believe, ladies, that when you get into intimate relationships, sometimes the pain that you thought you were through then comes back even more, right? When you get closer, when you really love someone again, when you really love yourself again, when you really fall in love with Christ, sometimes it's like, why are all these feelings coming back? I'm happier than I've ever been, yet I'm saddened by my past. Stephanie, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, triggers. We get triggered.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, it doesn't mean that we didn't receive some healing.
Yeah.
There are deeper levels of it. And so I like to tell women that we're healed and we're healing,
I
because
love
it's always
that.
a process. I have a story to share just from my own life
Yeah.
that, I went through healing when I came back to Russia. God totally picked open that scab, and so I began grieving deeply when I was overseas, and when I came back to the States is when I called up Pregnancy Support Center, got into a group to heal from that ginormous wound, that huge thing that just was right in the middle of my path. And then I couldn't believe how free I felt, and I had worked through so many things. And then I got married and had my first child. And I remember a midnight feeding when I was holding her and rocking her, and all of a sudden I had this crazy grief come through me. And I just looked at her and I thought, this is what I had forfeited. And
Wow.
so there was a whole wave, a fresh wave of
Wow.
grief. And it wasn't that God hadn't healed me and done a deep work in me. It was like, oh, there's more grief bubbling up. And
Yeah.
it's okay, because you know what? I can remember the things that I've learned and take that back, because God has fresh grace and fresh healing, and more to give me, deeper level of healing. And so it is a continual thing
Yeah.
for
That is, thank you for sharing that. That is deep to now have a child that you've birthed, and now you're feeding that child, realizing, grieving the pain of the child that you lost, and not a child that you lost through a miscarriage, not a child that you lost through death of some other kind, but through a choice. And that's a different kind of feeling. That's a different kind of grief. There's enough pain when people go through miscarriages and other things like this, but to go through the pain and look back and say, I had a say in that. Like I chose, like you said, you don't believe that any woman just outright chooses it like it's their best option. But at some point, they come to some realization that that's where they need to be. I want to thank everybody again who's in the comments. Real quick, I just want to go through and shout out a few people who are here. Again, Elaine Marie, Teresa Maxon, thank you. We see you guys. Maria Talbert, thank you so much for being here. Of course, Sharice and Amanda, Lynette, and everybody else who's here. Pastor Hubert Carpenter, thank you so much for being here and for your comments here today. Santoria has an amazing story. I'd love for you two to connect. We're going to have to do a healing episode where we bring, I've had so many powerful women who have such amazing stories. Santoria went through sexual abuse for several months as a young teen girl. And she's now written a book and is doing a lot. She's in the Columbus area to help women heal from what they've gone through. And she tells her story in very graphic detail, but it's so powerful. It's like, we don't hear these things. We don't know that, as I think she was 12 years old, maybe, that she was going through this type of assault, and that she was still trying to go off to school and still trying to protect her younger siblings. Powerful, powerful story. Angie Wright, thank you so much for being here today. We thank you guys. Don't go anywhere. You guys stay tuned and keep inviting others. Gail Sterling, thank you. We're so excited that you're here today. Pastor Candace Price, Marietta Hopkins, thank you. And I keep my friend Erica Burr, thank you. So glad you're here. Thank you for joining us so often. I appreciate it. I know you're a busy lady and got a lot going on with work and life and things. Thank you so much. Pastor Gary Martin, I wanted to thank him today again. Pastor Gary Martin, whom you know, Stephanie, and Renee, I'm sure you know Pastor Gary Martin as well. Just a great man of God in the community. I just have so much love and respect for Pastor Martin. And he said, we are healed, we are being healed, and we are going to be healed. I mean, wow. I mean, for me to think about going to be healed, it makes me think about my mom, knowing that in heaven she is healed. And she went through lots of things in her life. And then her battle with breast cancer. And she was healed from breast cancer. 2 or 3 years ago, she was healed, all clear, ring the bell, done with treatment, healed, excited, life, we're moving on, everything's good. And then here we are 2 years later, February 1st, she falls and fractures her hip. And a few weeks later, after several tests, they find out she still has cancer in her bones. And then they did all they could to help her with healing in that time. And they even had her in the Cleveland Clinic, and the best physicians in the world are working on her, trying to help her with continued healing in hopes of her coming home. But she didn't get the healing on this side of life. But I know right now in heaven she is healed. To both of you, what has your walk with Christ meant to you in this journey? How has a relationship with Christ helped both of you heal? And Renee, I'll start with you, and Stephanie will go to you.
Well, my relationship with the Most High, Yeshua, is that there is hope. There is hope in living. Every
Yes.
day I wake up, there is hope.
Yes.
Stephanie said, we get brand new mercies every day,
Yes. Yes.
and there is hope. And that's what I want to express of the life in Christ, the life with Christ, is that there is hope for today.
Yes.
There's hope for tomorrow. There's hope for the future.
Yes.
Um,
I love
and
it.
he lives in us,
Yes.
so that we can press forward, and then we can just encourage others.
Yes. Our hope is in him. All of our hope is in him. And Stephanie, you said it before the show. We were all talking, and you were saying, like, there is no healing without him. You're like, she was like, we need to talk about this. There is no healing without him. So Stephanie, tell us about it. What does it mean to you? What does your walk with Christ mean to you? And then how do you share that with others? What does it mean when you say there's no healing without him?
Oh my gosh. Because he embodies healing. He is about reconciliation and restoration, and he's the one that brings us purpose out of our pain, and he restores. He's the lifter of our heads. I mean, he takes away the shame. He takes away the guilt and the sin. I mean, all these things that burden us because of choices we made or things that were done to us. I mean, where else can we go? Yes. He's everything. He's everything to me. And he's the reason why I do what I do. He's the reason.
I love it. I love it. And mine as well. Mine as well. He is the reason why I do this and do this show. And I was telling you guys before the show as well that when I started this show 3 months ago or whatnot, I told people when they came on as guests, I said, my show is not church. And what I meant was I was fearful that people would come on and try to steer their whole conversation toward a almost as though there's certain things we can't say, there's things we can't open up about. It's church. And sadly, and Renee, I'd love to hear from you about this. Sadly, in church, so often these topics are taboo, or at least are hard to talk about. And so often this goes on. I think I talked to Deborah Martin about the same thing, about how do we open up these conversations in church? How can this be something that we bring to our communities and have the resources like what you guys have at House of Hope into the church? What do you think about that, Renee?
I think that church is a place for the wounded in spirit.
Yeah.
But we need to get beyond that church thing and deal with life.
Yes.
Okay. Life is it's a component of different things for different people.
Yes.
And when we open up the door for people to bring freely their life situations, then we can deal with the healing. We can deal with the spirit. Yeshua gave people, he fed people before he preached the word to them.
Yes.
So we need to open up the door and the leaders need to pursue that.
Yes.
Because we can bring more people into the assembly.
Yes.
By being open, not the church thing, not the traditional thing.
Yes.
It's not like people see church and it's like, it's someplace I can't go with my burden. I have to be perfect before I enter the door.
Yes.
But we need to open up because, people are living life and, we cannot do life without Christ. We can't do it. So we need to open up that door so that we can, and he knows all about us. He knows all about our wounds and everything.
Yes.
So we need to give people hope and be able to allow them to express themselves and,
Yeah.
just be
Oh, I
themselves.
love it. I love it. I love it. And you are a first lady of Friendship Baptist Church in Madison, Ohio. And for you to be saying these things, it matters. I just want to thank you for that and let you know it matters that it's coming from you and you're sharing these things. Thank you so much. Angie Wright says in the comments, she said, yes, these conversations need to be opened up in church. How many women are sitting in church in bondage over past abortions because leaders are afraid to bring it up? Thank you so much, Angie. You are so right. And I'm not anti-church, right? It's not about being anti-church. It's about the church being pro-people, right? It's about not being just pro-kingdom and God and the future and what's to come and get right and get on the ark. Well, we got to learn how to live here. The flood is not coming tomorrow necessarily for me. I got to figure out how to deal with my pain. To my sisters and family and friends and all the women and men that I know too. A great question. Tasha Ellis asked today if there's any resources for men. Do you guys know of any resources for men who've been through sexual trauma and abuse? What is there anything out there for them that you two know of?
For sexual trauma.
It's interesting, I think, and I think Tasha asked a great question. And I think what would happen is, and I do know, I've taught foster parent classes, and I've shared information about trauma and the fact that men have been sexually abused. And there's men who are acting out sexually because they've been sexually abused. I think we see women sometimes act out sexually, and then we learn about their past, and we're like, wow, she's been through a lot, and that's why she may be overly sexual or whatever it may be. And we fail to realize that men are going through it too, which I think is all the more reason why the churches, the houses of hope on every corner, which are the churches, right, have to have these conversations because we realize there's a need and we could start meeting some of these needs. So, Stephanie, I'd like for you to tell us a little bit more, if we could, about your book. And can people just order it, or do they get it as a part of going through the training? How does that work for somebody right here, right now, who heard you share about your book earlier and they're like, I need to get my hands on that?
Yeah. I will answer that. I want to make a comment about the young lady who asked about the resources.
Yes.
If she emails me, I will find something for her and make some suggestions and make a connection if I can.
Excellent.
Okay.
Tasha Ellis,
Okay.
please reach
Yes.
out. Hope at pregnancychoicesforme.com. Perfect.
All right. As far as Unbound, yes, you can order it on Amazon. You can purchase it at Pregnancy Choices as well. But the best way to work through this is with a small group. It's a very safe, confidential group. We have a very limited number of women that we put in a group at a time. That is the best way to work through Unbound, because we've lived in isolation most of our lives because of our brokenness. We pulled back, withdraw. And I believe that God sets us in community to heal, and he wants us to heal in a small group. And there's a lot to be gained as we're sharing our stories with one another. We realize, wow, I'm not crazy. That same thing happened to me. Or there's something that happens when we share stories. So I always recommend doing that in a small group.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And they can get that information at Pregnancy Choices, or they email you at hope at pregnancychoicesforme.com. What's the best way?
Yeah. Either one. Yeah. Hope at pregnancychoicesforme.com is a great way to reach me. And we're going to be starting new groups in September. So now's the time to get in touch with me, and we'll get them in a group.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, ladies, you guys have brought so much education, motivation, and liberation to our audience today. I can't thank you enough for your transparency and openness about your stories, about your purpose, about your mission. It matters, and I want to thank you guys so much. And Renee, I want to ask you one more question. It's on my mind, and I was like, I want to ask this, but I was like, we're kind of short on time, but we have time. Renee, just real quick, you referred to God as the Most High, and you continuously said the Most High. Why?
Why? Because we have been studying, along with my husband, in Bible study in church, that he is God and Jesus they are his Greek names, but he is Hebrew.
Yes.
He is Hebrew. And we would like to refer, if someone called you out of your name,
Mm.
you
Wow.
don't know better because you don't do better because you don't know better. But um, Yeshua is his Hebrew name.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sure.
I refer to God because I've been brought up. Refer to Jesus as I've been brought up, um, saying that.
Yes.
And, for anyone who doesn't say it, it's
He's
okay.
okay. He gets it, right?
He's okay.
He's okay with
But
that.
but when you know better, and for me, I'm practicing what I've learned.
Yes.
Just to call him Yeshua, I'll call him Jesus and God and
That's
what
okay
he
too,
knows my
right?
heart. But
I love it.
when you know better, you do
I
better.
love it. Thank you so much. I had to ask that. I think that's just an important piece. I love it. Yeshua, I've been studying some things myself, the Most High God, and it's just powerful and mind blowing. And I think it's important. And I think a part of my call is to shake the church a little bit. I think it's
Mhm.
for us to get out of our comfort zone, to stop being programmed to generationally do what the generation before did in generation, and we will even do wrong not knowing it. We will say things
Mhm.
wrong. We will say the words and the things that the people before us said. It may not even be in the Bible. We say some stuff sometime
Mhm.
that is just
Mhm.
a colloquialism. It's not even in the Bible, and we say it like it's scripture, and we're not helping people get the healing. But then we need to be able to be grounded on earth in a way that allows us to speak to the needs of people as you two have done today. There are so many people who need what you guys have shared. I pray right now that the people who are watching were blessed, helped, and healed. And I pray that the people who would watch as the days go on and the years go on, you may be watching this 5 years from now. You may have found this on YouTube somewhere. And I pray that this lesson and this message today would bless you. I pray that you would have learned something. I pray that you'd be motivated to do something different. And I pray that you be liberated and set free, that you stop living under the guilt and shame of your past and your choices and the things that happened to you that you didn't choose. God wants to set you free today. So thank you all so
Amen.
much. You all were phenomenal. Thank you, thank you, thank you both. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank
Lucas.
you.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
the privilege. Thank you.
Absolutely. Everybody, you guys have been wonderful as always. This is another episode of Lucas Live. We're so excited that you guys joined us here again today. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for the conversation. If you're listening to this as a podcast in the future, thank you. If you're watching it on YouTube, Lucas Live Media, wherever you're at, we thank you for your love and your support on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, all over. Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you may be coming from now or in the future. We're so excited. Thank you guys for being with us. Thank you for all your love and support. I promise to keep bringing you guys great guests. We're going to keep having these important conversations. And as a man, I promise to keep advocating for women.